What's up, everybody? I'm Wyatt Bagnall.
Taylor Wallerstein.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Today we are doing a tier ranking of all the teams in the NFL. Before we do that, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit subscribe. If you like what we say, give us a comment. If you don't like what we say, give us a comment and let us know. And and so with that, we'll jump right into ranking these teams. So as of right now, we got 6 tiers that we're going to sort them into. We've got Super Bowl contenders at the very top, playoff teams right below that, wild cards right below that, teams that are like on the bubble, and then young and intriguing teams, and then teams that are number 1 pick contenders. They're just not good. And I'm just going to go in the order that this thing presents them to me with.
Okay.
So, the first team up is the Saints.
Okay.
This is a team I would personally have. I think that we narrow this down to 2 tiers right away for them. They're either in the wild card tier at the highest or on the bubble.
See, I got them. Well, I mean, based on our division winners, I had them as a division winner. I could settle.
I'm not.
for wild card.
I'm not saying. The way I'm doing this is not predicting where I think they land up. I'm doing the quality of the team. Is to me that second tier of playoff teams. These are the teams that are they're not the teams you're going to pick to win the Super Bowl, but they have a shot at it.
Sure.
I don't think the Saints have a shot at it.
Yeah, going based off that logic, I'd give them a wild card tier strictly because I think the team is in a position where first of all the NFC is a little bit weaker, and they are in the NFC South, so I think they do find a way to I think they're a quality enough football team that they could be.
I'm willing to put them in the wild card tier.
Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion that tier might get big, and we might have to move some people around at the very end of this.
We possibly
we'll
have
see.
to. Yeah, just depends on. I mean, there could be more wild card level teams and just not enough wild card spaces for those teams, especially in the AFC. But I think I'd give them. I think wild card is a little bit.
I'll put them I'll put them at wild card.
Cool.
But they'd be the low end of that tier for me.
For sure.
Miami, this is a team I'd say is just a playoff team where it's they could knock off anybody at any time. I just don't suspect that they'll string together 4 straight games to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know if I could put them in Super Bowl contenders either. I wouldn't put. I think they're talented enough that they kind of beat out the wild card position. So I would say, this is a team we should see in playoffs based on how everything goes.
They're a team that if everything goes well, they're a bona fide dangerous playoff team. I just don't know that they are quite there yet to be in that top group.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, next up, Baltimore. I want to put them at the top end of that wild card group because I think that if healthy, they're a playoff team, but I have no reason to believe that that's where they actually land.
Yeah.
So to me, they're going to be the very tippy top of the wild card group.
Yeah, I don't consider them a favorite to make playoffs personally. I think wild card is a good position for them. They certainly are talented enough for it. They really, they've, especially, bringing in Odell. They've got a better wide receiver core than we've seen in a minute. Still have Mark Andrews over there. You're assuming your running back core is not going to be completely shot before preseason week 2. But again, that's assuming, and with the Ravens and injuries, sometimes assuming can absolutely make an ass out of you and me. I would say, based on how this team can play when they're healthy versus how often they are healthy, I think top of wild card is actually a fair spot for them.
Yep. All right, so next up is our first Super Bowl contender team, and it's the Bengals.
Let's go.
They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna end this list at the top of that group, but they're in that group.
Yeah, I can take that. Without a doubt, we're Super Bowl contenders. Only got, I would say, we either maintained or did get better in this offseason with a couple of the acquisitions we brought in. Let some people go, but I think you have to let a couple of safeties walk when you're about to pay your quarterback and 2 wide receivers potentially. So
the more I hear about it, I don't think they're going to pay both of them.
I think we're going to pay I think we're going to pay Ja'Marr Chase 100%. I could see us potentially not paying T. Higgins, but
I am of the mindset that the next position that's going to get the running back treatment is wide receiver because offense has been made so easy that almost all of them, unless you're special, are completely interchangeable.
Yeah, and I do love T. Higgins, and don't get me wrong, and don't take this the wrong way, Bengals fans. personally, if I had to pick one, I'm picking Jamar Chase 10 out of 10 times. I think he just brings he brings that something special to the wide receiver conversation.
Yep.
He's T. Higgins, I think, is absolutely incredible and will be and does have the possibility to be a wide receiver one somewhere else. But when you've got Jamar Chase, you can pretty much put anybody into the wide receiver 2 position, and
Yep.
he should be able to do well. So yeah, to agree with you, we are Super Bowl contenders. I'd argue to say that we should be at the tippy top. But
I know you'd argue it.
Of course I would. But yeah, I will. Being in that conversation is an honor enough, and I will
Listen,
take that.
anybody in the top tier, it's sort of like pick the day that you play them, and they could win it.
Exactly.
It's just this is just a matter of like the way we rank them is
Right.
just sort of some of it's biased, some of it isn't. Some
Of course.
it. I mean, I'm going to be harshly unbiased when it comes to the top of some of these tiers or the bottom of them. Sure. But yeah, the Bengals are in it, and the next one. So if you're letting the Saints into the wild card tier, I'm putting the Broncos in it because I think the Broncos are a better football team than the Saints, and I'm tiering.
In the wild card tier.
Yes, and I'm tiering these based on how I think these are as teams, not where I think they'll finish. I think the Broncos are better than the Saints.
I would have thought you would put them in the playoff team category.
No, I think they're a wild card team. I
Okay.
think they're good. Like
Wow.
I gotta see how good.
Yeah.
But I think that where they are right now, I feel comfortable saying their team is a playoff caliber team and a wild card team definitely. And then I think they're definitely over a team
So if
like
you're
the
saying they're a
Saints.
playoff caliber team, why are they not in the playoff team?
Because those are the teams I think those are the teams that if things break their way, they can get to the Super Bowl. Those would be the teams that I would bank on like a surprise Super Bowl run.
Okay.
I wouldn't bank on that from the Broncos, but I would bank on them just getting into the dance.
Okay. Talent wise, I will agree with you. I think they're a wild card team for sure. As much as if you've watched our previous videos, you can see I obviously don't give a fuck about the Broncos anymore.
You actually do give a fuck.
I give a fuck, but a negative fuck.
Yeah.
I
You
I
definitely
hate them.
give one.
I definitely give multiple hate boner fucks. But personally, looking at that roster, if you take away their quarterback and I just unbiased, like I just don't have to answer about the quarterback or anything, the head coach, the defense, and the offensive talent. Yeah, absolutely. I think they're on caliber to be a playoff or a wild card team and in the playoffs. Based on, I actually do like your definition of the playoff teams category. I don't think they could pull off a Super Bowl win, especially to bring in the quarterback now. I think Russ is a little bit on the wash side when it comes to clutch moments. So yeah, I go wild card. Their team is definitely stacked, and that defense is nasty.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton does elevate that team way more than Nathaniel Hackett.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you could argue Nathaniel Hackett like de-elevates him.
Oh, 100%.
Like-
It's like adding like 50 to -5. Like you're gonna get 45 out of that, but
Yeah.
I think they're relatively.
I think they're good enough to be in that group
Yeah.
of teams. Those are the teams that are like, there's a lot of teams. The NFL works in a pretty simple way. It's really easy to pick out who's awful and who's really good.
Yeah.
Then there's a big clump in the middle, and it's essentially, do you lean positive or negative
Sure.
on them?
Yeah.
I lean more positive on them because I think they have more things going for them than a lot of the other teams in that middle area.
Yeah.
So that's why they go wild card. The next team, I lean the other way, and I'm going to put them on the bubble, on the bubble group, because I don't think they're number one pick contenders, and I don't think they're young or intriguing, and that's the New York Giants. They're not number one pick contenders. They're not
No.
that awful,
No, they're not that bad.
and they aren't that young.
Yeah.
So to me, they're going to miss the playoffs. They're a team that I lean on the negative end of that group of teams. Some people think that they somehow got better this offseason. Some people think they'll be back in the playoffs. I am harshly the other way, and I think that they belong in that tier below.
A lot of people have been talking about the Giants' odds to win the NFC East. 'cause
Yeah,
they're
good
plus
luck.
850.
0.
Yeah, well, no, the Vegas odds, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
betting
yeah.
odds.
No, I get it.
It's plus 850, and a lot of people are like,
No, not a chance.
and so for me, I'm a little bit more bullish on the Giants myself. Not really in. I don't see it either. When you said some people think they actually got better, I'm like,
No.
really? That's a conversation that the internet's having. Okay.
Like, there's a bunch of people that are like, how much better did they get this year? Negative.
Yeah, I would say. I would argue.
I mean, I would argue either negative
got
or they
a little
stayed the
worse.
same and they just wildly overachieved the year before.
Yeah, and then
We see teams like that come and go all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's actually going to be tough to be able to pull that off this year. I would say on the bubble seems fair.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love to start disagreeing with you, so we can have a little bit more heated.
We'll
debate.
start disagreeing somewhere here.
We gotta.
I think we'll disagree more when it comes to coaches and players.
Sure,
I think teams is
it's pretty cut and dry.
teams. We've talked a lot about teams, so we sort of know where we land.
Right.
So the Vikings, we might be a little more contentious on this one.
Okay.
I would have them at the very top of that on the bubble group, because I think that they're a team that they took like a couple steps backwards, kind of consciously, where they're like, we just need to overhaul our defense, just cut some guys loose. Dalvin's gone. I agree with not paying running backs that much money, but I mean, he's a good player. Like,
Right.
they'll be missing like 2 to 3 60-yard plays a year
Right.
with him.
Yeah,
And I also there's just something about them, man, where the way they won last year, there's a reason nobody was sold and they got worse.
Yeah.
So I think they come out on like the bad end of it more than they come out on the good end of it. They might make the playoffs, but I would have them at the very top of that bubble group because I think that they got overtaken by at least one or two teams.
I agree. I was considering putting wild card in, but then no, it really was almost. It was basically a Giants season last year. Like what the Giants did last year, the
And I think
Minnesota Vikings did, but they were expected to do better because of
and I got the
actual
Vikings
roster.
over the Giants in this thing because I think what they did is still more sustainable than what the Giants did.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but it's not really a huge surprise that they got bounced so quickly in the playoffs
No.
last year. So
When those two teams played each other, I was so pissed about sort of where we ended up finishing in the rankings for everything, because our first round matchup was like Seattle, when it was like, oh, we could have just had like Minnesota or the Giants.
Yep.
Would have been great.
Yeah.
I wanted the Giants so bad. It would have been like, we basically got a bye week.
Pretty much, yeah. They did inherently get worse in my opinion, so I got to put them on the bubble as well.
This is a team that I'm putting down at the very bottom with the number one pick contenders. I don't think they'll get the number one pick, but the Rams are going to be bad.
Yeah, there's really young and intriguing does not.
No, they're actually quite old.
Yeah, they don't fit that bill at all.
Yeah, young and intriguing is a tier for the teams that they have actively entered. They are like in a rebuild phase,
Yeah.
and they have just brought in like an influx of like a complete new core.
Right.
Then there are teams that are on here that are like going to be in that group in like the next couple, but some of these teams that are just like they're old and on the downturn, I'm just going to put them in that bad group.
Yeah, I put them in. Yeah, I think they gotta go number one pick contention. I don't think they're gonna get it. I don't think they're gonna be that bad.
No,
that
they won't.
will be in that conversation of number one. But they're definitely, if everything goes the way that they're probably hoping it does, they could be number one.
Yep.
They're more likely to be number one first overall than they are Super Bowl winner.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a good spot for them as well.
I think the next one also, let's just slide this in there with them right now, is the Buccaneers.
Yeah, that's another position where I can't even say young and intriguing because there are some good pieces on there.
No,
for sure.
they just blew it up. They're a
Yeah.
team that next year is in the young and intriguing group.
Yep. Next year they'll be young and intriguing for sure. They don't really have a quarterback. Baker could look great. He could not. Who knows?
He won't.
Yeah, probably
He
not.
will probably here. I mean, the worst thing that Tampa Bay could have is he looks okay.
And they're stuck at like a 7
Yeah, and
10 situation,
they wind up anywhere from 6 and 11 to like 9 and 8. It's
Right.
like no.
Yeah.
That is purgatory that they don't need.
Yeah.
I think they're a team that they're about to enter a big rebuild because they brought Levante David back on like a 1 or 2 year deal. Devin White sounds as though he wants to leave at some point.
Yeah.
Mike Evans is getting older. I mean, they're a team that. I mean, listen, they got the Super Bowl out of it. This might be the time to just like turn it over.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got 2 years of Tom Brady and you turned it into a playoff appearance that almost could have been an NFC
3 years.
championship. Oh yeah, 3 years. Excuse me. You got 3 playoff appearances. You got a Super Bowl out of it. You had a good chance at
you won.
potentially another one with the 27-3 against the Rams, but you weren't able to pull it off. Yeah, I mean that's a good for you going all in. You got what you needed.
Yep.
Now you're in a position where you have a lot of players who are probably worthy of some good draft capital. I mean, Chris Godwin would definitely go somewhere if you're planning on moving him.
And is he hurt again? Because he's been hurt the last few years.
You could still probably get.
No, you could. I mean, we'll see. But for this year, that's not what they're doing. They're down in that bottom group.
Yeah.
The next one, I think we could have a bit of a debate about, maybe, but I think we're going to land on the same thing. And it's the Lions.
Okay.
I think our inclination is to probably throw them into that playoff group because I think that I feel better about them than some of those wild card teams.
Yeah.
I don't think this is their year to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But if you were to tell me that like enough things went right, sure they could.
Yeah.
But I think there'd also be a lot of people that would put them in that young and intriguing group. I would land on the playoff team thing because I feel as though the improvement we've seen from them every year is really tangible.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable putting them there.
Yeah.
I would put them below Miami,
yeah.
but I would put them in that group as like, yeah, they're good. They're real good. Probably not a Super Bowl unless like they get some lucky breaks.
God, they're gonna be 4-13.
I know they absolutely are, and then we're gonna go back and edit this thing and have them in young and intriguing.
Young and intriguing, exactly.
But I would put them in the playoff team.
Yeah, I'd put them there too. It really comes down to, is Jared Goff actually a quality starting quarterback?
Yep.
Is he a team leader? I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback at any point in his career. But I will say, can he be a Kirk Cousins level guy? Can he be a Jimmy Garoppolo guy?
Yes.
Like the right plays.
That's definitively yes.
Yeah. Like, if he can do that for the Lions, then yeah, they're a playoff team. And if a couple of things go right, maybe we have Jared Goff starting another Super Bowl for the Lions. But,
yeah. And then, by the way, I'll be rooting for him. I don't care who they're playing.
Oh,
you might care who they're playing, but no matter who they're playing, I would root for the Lions.
Let's have the Cat Bowl. The Bengals versus the Lions. Lions versus Tigers, baby.
Yeah, who's the real king of the jungle?
Who's the real king of the jungle?
That'd be what it would be all about, dude.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
it'd be really fun until it didn't go your way.
Exactly.
And then you'd hate it.
It'd be fun until I'm watching Joe Burrow lose 2 Super Bowls in the game of his career.
I know.
Fuck.
That'd be 2 in 3 years.
I know. Knock on wood that doesn't happen. Whatever. Yeah, but I think they are a quality playoff team. They are a good football team.
They're good.
I do agree that they could potentially be young and intriguing because there's a lot of young talent on that roster that could.
The only thing that worries me about them is, God, I hope they're not buying into. I hope they're just not hearing what everybody's saying about how good they are.
And honest to God,
it's the only thing that makes I got the same concern about them as I do the Jets.
And that's fair. What I will say is I'm hoping I'm putting my faith in Dan Campbell. That Dan Campbell is going to be able to keep the locker room culture where he needs it to be, so that they can keep being the feisty underdogs until they're literally not. And even if they are the favorite, they're still playing with the underdog mentality.
The reason I would have more faith in the Lions having that than the Jets, for instance, I think enough of the core guys of the Lions have seen how bad it is,
right?
And I think a lot of the core guys that the Jets are building around came in last year, and they had this sort of hopeful year, and they think it might be easier than it is.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think the Lions are a playoff team type. Here's the first team that I would put in young and intriguing is the Bears.
I'm going to put them in number 1 pick contention.
No way.
Yeah.
They're not that bad.
No,
and they are ascending.
I don't think they end up getting the first overall pick by any means, but I do see them as more of a 4-13 team. Yeah, they are young and intriguing, but when it comes to if you've watched any of our videos, I'm not really a huge Justin Fields believer. I think if you don't have your quarterback, you are in a position where you are continuously in the number 1 pick contention until you do have a quarterback who can elevate this team. Did they get a lot better in this offseason? Absolutely. And I'm going to just preface this with, hey, their draft haul that they got for the first overall pick and what they did in the draft, and by also getting DJ Moore, which I have been quoted as saying multiple times, if you want to see what you have in your young quarterback, get him a true wide receiver 1. Yep. I think DJ Moore is that.
So I think that logic alone, because we had to come to a consensus on this, because there was only one spot to put it.
Well, I know that.
I think by that logic alone, they're young and intriguing. They are intriguing because theoretically, you finally got the dude a real weapon.
Yeah.
He's flashed enough.
Not with his arm.
Yeah, of course not. He hasn't had a damn thing to throw to.
Fucking Joe Burrow was throwing to fucking nobody.
Yeah,
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd.
And he looked bad the first year.
He looked good.
No, he did
You
not.
could tell you had the guy.
No, you did not. The first year, people were like, that was not awesome. And then he went down.
Because he played 4 games. Whatever.
I'm not comparing Justin Fields to Joe Burrow.
No, I know you're not, but I'll let it go on that one.
But he is like, they are a young and intriguing team. It is in their range of outcomes to overachieve.
I think, let's put it this way, they're closer to being in a number 1 contention conversation than they are on the bubble conversation, in my opinion.
I'm putting them in that young and intriguing group.
Do what you will.
Well, the next 2 are also really easy to place.
Okay.
So the next 2 are the 49ers and the Eagles. They're both going to that top group.
Both are Super Bowl contenders. I'd probably put the Niners over the Eagles personally. I don't care. I don't really care about the whole Jalen Hurts thing. I do think he's a talented athlete, and they definitely kind of know how they want to use him. That offense is, on paper, really
Very
good. Yeah, it's got the pieces that you need to be successful. A.J. Brown is great. Devontae Smith is great. The run game is going to be good no matter who they pump in. I'm not going to sit here and say he's overrated. I think he's a great number 2 wide receiver, which is what he's supposed to be. So if somebody, here's the thing: if T. Higgins was a wide receiver 1 and Devontae Smith was a wide receiver 1, T. Higgins would have a lot more success than Devontae Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Devontae Smith is built to be an NFL wide receiver 1, but as a wide receiver 2, he is a fantastic wide receiver 2. So I don't overrate him as a wide receiver. I know exactly what his position should be on the field, and I think he plays it very well. I'd much rather have A.J. Brown than Devontae Smith.
Yep.
But having Devontae Smith as a complement to A.J. Brown, in my opinion, is a great compliment. I would say that the Niners
let me tell you how I'll rank them to take this off of you.
Okay.
I'm ranking them Bengals, Niners, Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I think the Bengals are a better football team, but because of all the Super Bowl contenders, the 49ers are by far the most volatile.
Yeah.
Of like, if something, I mean, they both aren't. If any of these teams were to have, if you were to say that like all the teams in this top tier get their quarterback hurt, San Francisco then is the best of them.
Yeah.
But they're also the one that just like starts from the lowest benchmark with that as of right now.
Yeah.
So I'll say, I think I've been on record with this. The 49ers are the best entirety like team in the league. That's not what wins Super Bowls anymore.
Sure.
And so I'll make it easy for you so you don't have to do it to me. I'll put San Fran below Cincinnati, but I'm putting them over Philly.
I'd be happy to do it to you. That's where you.
No, you would not.
I'd be happy to do it.
No, you would not.
But yeah, I got the same one of Bengals, Niners, and then Eagles. I think the style of football that the Niners play, even if they're in a position where their quarterback isn't Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow, Mahomes,
they can beat up anybody.
They can beat up anybody, and that's what impresses me the most about them. The Eagles, I think you can't stop them.
I mean,
get in their head.
my logic is very simple with why San Fran is like the best team in the league last year. You take a lot of these teams and you take their dude out, they don't go like 8-0 and go to the NFC Championship with their third guy.
And a guy who literally nobody was talking about.
Quite literally, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah. By definition, nobody was talking about.
So. Yeah, so...
Yeah, credit where credit's due.
So, yeah, I mean, that's why I think they're the best team in the league.
Sure.
But the way the modern league works, there are big advantages to having what the Bengals have, even if they're lesser in other spots.
Yep.
Up next, I think we go to the complete other end of the spectrum with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
And I don't think they're young and intriguing. I don't think they're on the bubble. I think they're going to be really bad.
Yeah. They're a number 1 pick contention team for me.
Are they above or below the Rams, though?
I put them...
I think they're above the Rams.
Above the Rams as in...
I think they're better than the Rams.
Okay. Yeah, I would just say the same thing. Personally... The team's got a little bit more pieces than I think the Rams do. I mean, the Rams literally have Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. That's
about
it. I mean, no disrespect to Stafford, but I think Stafford probably wanted to retire last year. I think there's reports that he even said he was going to, and then his wife talked him out of it.
That doesn't sound right. I think it was the other way around.
Other way around. Excuse me. He wanted to retire. Whatever.
She wanted him to retire.
She wanted to retire. But yeah, so personally, I think, there's just not much that gets me excited about the Raiders, and
no, the only there's two. I mean, there's two great players on that team with Adams and Crosby.
Right. And yeah, basically what we were just saying about the Rams, except you have younger pieces in Crosby and in Devontae Adams.
Yeah, they're less likely to get out. They're less likely to get hurt.
Yeah, I also agree. So I put them a little bit above. That's not really saying much.
No, it's not. This is essentially, as of right now, we have the Raiders getting the number 3 pick. So,
Yeah, good for them.
yeah.
Get a good piece.
Next up is the Packers. I would have them firmly in young and intriguing.
Yeah, I don't think you can put them anywhere.
I mean, their whole offense is like first, second year guys or first year starters.
Yeah.
And then their defense is a little bit older, but the thing that will like make or break their year is a young unit.
Yeah, and they brought in some new younger people for the defense as well to kind of fill some of those holes in, and they do what the Packers do every year, which is spend a first round pick on a defensive player.
And just for you, I'll put them above the Bears.
I appreciate that. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
I think we got another team that fits in this group,
Okay.
which is Washington. If it works out for them, I don't think that they are not nearly bad enough to be like number 1 pick contenders. Like their defense by itself is like
it's solid.
decent just by like the defensive line they run out there.
Yeah, no, it's solid.
And their offense is like McLaurin, couple of good backs. It's about Sam Howell, really.
Well, that's the thing is, young and intriguing. So we've seen Justin Fields. So we've seen Justin Fields play. You've at least seen Jordan Love. First of all, he's learned behind Aaron Rodgers. That has to stay for something.
You'd hope.
You'd hope. If he didn't learn a fucking thing, that's not on Rodgers. That's not on the Packers. That's him choosing not to fucking take advantage of a gold mine opportunity of knowledge in the NFL. This is completely different. Yeah, we've seen one game of Sam Howell, but is this a situation where Sam Howell is potentially the future of the Washington, football team or Commanders? Excuse me. There's like 7.
Whatever the hell they're going to be named.
Yeah, or they may go back to the Redskins.
Here would be
Yeah.
why I put them in young and intriguing. This is a team that has enough potential to me to not be in that bottom tier regardless. And then when the thing that really is the question mark is just something we don't know anything about, I would say that it's just sort of a question mark where it's like...
See, that's the difference for me is I put them in the number 1 pick contention because I can concede the Bears because, again, we saw flashes from Justin Fields, according to you.
According to me and a lot of other people.
Yeah, whatever. We all wanted to see flashes, maybe.
We did.
I would say young and intriguing makes sense for that, especially because you just made the move that you needed to go get him. Notice.
We can put them in that bottom tier, but I would put a pretty hard line that they got to be like the top of it.
Yeah, I think it's possible. This is a team that like bottom tier for them is 5-12. They still win like 5 games. They're not going to be anywhere near the number 1 pick conversation at all.
No.
But nothing about this team is intriguing to me. Obviously, I think Terry McLaurin is good. Jahan Dotson
Terry.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson is, I think, could be really.
I'm hoping for a
wide
good year.
receiver,
I'm
too.
hoping for a big year from Chase Young too, because he's had essentially 2 years wiped out by that injury.
Right,
This is a pretty
like Chase
big
Young.
year for him.
Yeah, and I like Chase Young. And it is a solid defense with a good defensive line. They've made some good moves.
Rivera's a good defensive coach.
Absolutely.
He won't be there after this year.
No, the regime change will make sure of that. But is it young? Yes. Is it intriguing? No. And that's where I have to draw the line.
Fair enough. The next one I think is also just an absolute layup. The Cardinals.
Yeah, that's
Get down to the very bottom of everything.
Yep, number 1 pick contention, and I don't think we have to be talking too much longer.
Yeah, they're the number
about
1
them,
contender for the number 1 pick.
100%. I would be surprised if they bring a quarterback and try to get some more draft capital by bringing in Kyler, which would be hilarious because they listened to Kyler about bringing in Paris.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would just be funny as hell. But
all right, up next. So we might be off by a tier on this one, but we'll see. Up next is the Steelers.
Okay.
I would have them in that wild card tier.
Yeah, I got them wild card tier. I do think they're a playoff caliber team, but this is also something that we could even potentially have the conversation.
Young and intriguing. Yeah, absolutely. I just have too much. I just think they're better. I think they're starting from a higher place than young and intriguing.
Exactly. This is not a Houston or a Panthers situation. This is Mike Tomlin's a really good coach.
Above or below Baltimore?
I would put them above Baltimore strictly because I feel like they're going to be they'll be able to stay healthier. Tomlin's a great coach. I think Pickett probably year 2 is gonna have a better year. I don't know how good
we'll
that's
see.
looking. I don't have a lot of faith in the guy, but I can at least if we're gonna give it to Justin Fields, I'm gonna give it to Pickett as well. I think the O-line got better, which will give him an opportunity to do well. George Pickens year 2. I mean, he's already tearing up training camp,
Looking
so
good.
he's looking really good. I like the guy, Georgia Bulldog, my guy. And their defense is going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think they're a high-end wild card team. I don't know if I'm ready to put them in playoff team yet, just because I'm closer to putting them in young and intriguing than I am playoff team.
Yeah, they're not established enough
I
on
agree.
offense to do it.
I agree, but I do think this is a team that is talented enough that we should see them in January.
Yep. Here's a team that's established enough on offense, the Buffalo Bills. They're going up to the top.
They're a Super Bowl contender, and you could even potentially throw them over the Bengals, but I would not currently. I think there's only one team that goes above the Bengals right now.
Yeah, I kind of want to throw them there just to be shitty to people, but
Well, it is your specialty, but I would say based on previous postseason history already, I think we've kind of earned that position of being a little bit higher than them.
I honestly don't think that matters too much when you're talking about these. These are
It's interchangeable.
Right.
I think any given Sunday you put the Chiefs and the Bengals.
I'll let the
Bills and
Bengals be above them, but I don't know. That's what I gotta feel.
I will agree with what you said earlier. Of pick the day, and any of these teams could win.
Yeah.
So.
Falcons. Okay, this one is. They're young and intriguing. Technically, they're definitely young.
I don't know if they're intriguing.
But I think the intriguing thing isn't the thing that's so important about that tier. It's essentially the group. These are the groups that are like. They tore it down, and now they're in the process of building it back up, and I think that is precisely where the Falcons are.
I will give them young and intriguing, but what I mean by intriguing is, look, Desmond Ridder does not get me excited in the same way Sam Howell doesn't get me excited.
In fact, I'm going to put them above the Packers and Bears, because I think that they are...
Really?
Yeah.
Because they're below both.
Because they're coming from a smash mouth style, which is easier to protect your guy in.
Sure.
They brought in a bunch of defensive pieces, and they play in an easy ass division. I think the Packers and Bears are both going to just look worse.
Yeah,
by the nature of where they are.
That's completely fine and understandable. I think on paper, if we're talking about the quality of these rosters, both the Packers and the Bears are probably higher up.
The Falcons are sneakily overlooked.
I know they're sneakily overlooked, and I'm not going to sit here and say they're bad and they're number one pick contention in conversation. But Desmond Ridder, I mean, really, are we going to have this conversation that we just had with Sam Howell all over again?
No, I know.
And look, they're staying in this tier. I'm firm with them staying in young and intriguing, and I think that's fair. Personally, I don't think they're as intriguing, and I do think young and intriguing, the intriguing does matter. I'm not saying, what's an exciting team? Like, I'm not really looking for that. But Desmond Ridder does not intrigue me. I don't sit here and say... when I see the quotes come from Falcons camp that say, we believe he could be our guy, I'm like, get fucked.
I'm not saying anything like that, but I mean...
it's the same thing with Sam Howell.
Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Cordell Patterson, Bijan Robinson. Their offense is ready to go. Their O-line is better than anybody thinks. They got two of the top O-linemen in the league. Their defense,
I agree.
Grady Jarrett, A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates.
I agree, but I don't believe in their quarterback, which doesn't intrigue me. And it's the same Sam Howell.
I don't believe in the Packers quarterback.
Well, I don't believe in Jordan Love either, and I don't believe in Justin Fields, which is why I'm having these conversations as we speak. But for me personally, based on their offense is if we're gonna go based off of flashes and what we think this team could be, I think, honest to God, if we're talking about any of these young and intriguing teams, the only one that really intrigues me is the Bears because, all right, what do we have in Justin Fields? I don't have any interest in finding out what Desmond Ridder has because I don't think he has anything. Am I wrong? Could I be wrong? Absolutely. I could be wrong about Sam Howell too, but this team is much better than the Commanders, in my opinion, on paper with everything. I think the quarterback situation is exactly the same as the Commanders, which is why I will 100% say, okay, you know what? This is a team that get them a young rookie quarterback next year if Desmond Ritter's not the guy and they are in the number 1 pick
I'd be
contention.
so worried about that just because they might not be bad enough to get.
No, and I do think that's possible, but there's also
That's the risk of building the way that the Falcons build is, yeah, you could build a really good team, and then you got to like find a way to pull off a big old trade. But
but
we'll see.
Yeah, that being said, I genuinely think they're going to be in the market for a quarterback next year, which is why this
I think so
is less
too.
intriguing to me because will the team be interesting and the offense is relatively loaded.
It is
100%, but I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Desmond Ridder is the guy.
All right, so Seahawks.
I'm going to go on the bubble.
This is either top of bubble or bottom of wild card.
I think top of bubble is where I have them. Strictly because...
The only thing I struggle with is they're definitely better than the Saints.
Well, I think...
They're firmly better than the Saints at basically everything.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
That's the only thing I struggle with. Because I think that they're on the bubble because I don't think Geno Smith... I don't know. I think I'm more willing to put them in that wild card group. Because if we're gonna be harshly objective here, they've done a good job of like loading up with weapons.
4,200 yards from Geno Smith last year is.
You're not going to get that.
You're not getting.
But
it.
I would put
You're
them.
not getting it again.
I'd put them in that wild card group above the Saints, beneath the Broncos.
They belong in that conversation as much as my gut instinct is on the bubble. I don't. It really depends on, did Geno Smith just have a really good year when no one expected him to, and they kept him in all year so he got his stats, or are we about to see, okay, this team is genuinely better this year, and Geno Smith takes a step back with better weapons, better defense.
I think that's what we're going to see. I think the team might be better. But I think Geno Smith jumped on everybody out of nowhere, but by the middle of the year, he'd sort of plateaued and people figured it out.
Yeah, 100%.
So we'll see. But I think Seattle, regardless, they're a good enough team.
They're talent-wise wild card, and I'll give them that.
I think the next two are both on the bubble. I think the Patriots are on the bubble. They're not in they're not going to be bad enough to be number 1 contenders, and they're not that young. So we know what they are. I would actually have them over the Giants.
Yeah.
And then I would say the same thing to the Browns.
Would you consider young and intriguing though?
For the Patriots?
They do have some old pieces, but their offense is relatively young.
No, I would not.
Okay.
Too much of what they do is established. There's nothing there that's really a question mark other than what happens when we just have an offensive coordinator. That's really the only thing that majorly changed.
Sure.
And there's reason to believe already okay, Mac Jones already showed he can be pretty good, and then just they just did the dumbest thing you could imagine.
Yeah.
I think that they're just a bubble team.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, they are a bubble team until they really show anything else, which I don't think they do.
No. I think the Browns are also a bubble team. You could convince me very well that they could just be great, but there's a huge question about it. But I think even their floor is not that low. They'll beat a couple teams just on you just won't be able to physically hang.
Sure.
I think they're a bubble team. I'll bet right now until I see something different that they'll miss the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But you could convince me that they're better than a lot of teams.
You think I'm gonna go to bat for the Cleveland Browns?
No, that's why I'm saying it. So I'm actually going to put them. I'm going to put them at the top of that bubble tier because I think that if they play the Vikings, they beat the Vikings.
I'll put them in the bubble conversation for sure, which is funny as hell to me. I just first of all I don't believe in Deshaun Watson in the slightest anymore. I think 2 years and all this media has ruined the guy that people think he still is.
Think he was.
Yeah, think he or think he is based on who he was. Let's put it that way. There really isn't a lot on that roster that gets me super excited. The wide receivers, Amari Cooper's a solid wide receiver who's been doing it for a long time now.
I keep forgetting he's in Cleveland.
I know.
It
just seems weird.
No, it's just the most anonymous matchup ever.
I would have never guessed.
Amari Cooper is on the... Yeah, sure, it could be.
Yeah, sure, in your Madden franchise.
Yeah, I bet he is, yeah.
We'll talk about the Jags in a sec, but 100%.
The Jags are the last team.
That is it. Oh, well,
we'll get there.
That's a team that if I was the GM of the Jags and I hear Amari Cooper's open, I'm making that trade. But personally, I really don't buy it into this team. I know Chick Nub Nick Chubb is a freaking animal.
Chick Nub, dude.
Chick Nub.
And his evil twin, Nick Chubb.
Yeah. I know he's a different animal. I will give credit where credit's due. He is
very good.
a really good running back, but I just don't believe it in that passing offense, which is what Deshaun Watson was brought in to do.
We'll see. Again, like I said, if you were to tell... I think that the reason why they should be top of that bubble tier is you could make, like, a compelling enough argument that they're really good this year.
Yeah, you could.
So I'm going to leave them there. There's another team that there's no compelling argument, really, that they'll be great this year.
Okay.
And that's the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw them in the young and intriguing
Really?
tab. Yeah, I will.
I think that they're a year away from that, but I mean, I'm willing to put them there. Sure, why not?
I'll give him young and intriguing.
I was about to say, I think that realistically, I was about to say you could just put them like right beneath the Rams and right above the Buccaneers in terms of like what they'll be this year. But no, let's do it. I like it.
Yeah, let me make my case. Let me make my case.
I like it.
Well, I do think that they are very, very early into their rebuild, and they very easily could be in that number one pick contention tier. I'll put them in young and intriguing strictly because look, you found your quarterback. Whether he is the guy or not, we don't know. So to me that's where that intriguing comes from, and they are super fucking young.
Yeah.
I mean, Will Anderson, that draft for them, getting both their quarterback and Will Anderson, who I know DeMeco Ryans wanted more than anything, which is why I'm glad they actually pulled that off because I was like, no, you got to take Will Anderson. You're not going to Bryce Young.
Get Will Anderson,
but whatever. There's a lot on that team that just we have a shit ton of question marks about. We'll see what we have in them. I'm not saying that young and intriguing means an 8-9 or a season like that where they're showing like massive signs of improvement already. But there is a lot to be interested in this team. I know I'm going to be paying attention to the Houston Texans strictly because I'm going to be like, all right, well, what is C.J. Stroud? What do they have in him? Where do they need to improve next time around to continue this rebuild, to take the next step? Dalton Schultz is over there. I'm a big fan of Dalton Schultz as a tight end. I don't think he's anything crazy, but I do like the piece. I do like the addition. The defense with DeMeco Ryans is actually going to be interesting to see what he can bring to the table.
It'll be better.
It'll be a lot better. So personally, I think they're going to start winning some games that they were a little bit close last year already.
Yeah, they were hanging tough
with Lovie Smith coaching them. This is their opportunity to take a next step already, and they've got the pieces. They're ahead of schedule basically.
Fair enough. I like them there.
Yeah, I'll give them the young and intriguing vibe. But young and intriguing in this situation for Houston could very well be a 4-13 record.
Yeah, exactly.
So keep that in the back of your mind.
All right, so this next one, I want to hear you say where they go.
Okay.
All right, it's the Chiefs.
It's Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Where in there?
Arguably up top.
Arguably.
I mean, I would put it into position again.
Listen, they're going to be on top.
Yeah, they're going to be on top. Like, first of all, they're coming off a Super Bowl win, and they really didn't lose any pieces other than Juju, maybe, and Orlando Brown.
You can survive. You can survive losing Juju.
Yeah. I think they're probably going to be okay without Orlando Brown.
They will be.
Which is why I'm glad we got him.
Which is why they didn't keep him, essentially.
Whatever. But that being said, I do still I do still think that they firmly fit in the category of Super Bowl contender. But any day that any of these Super Bowl contenders play, I'm not saying that they're above.
I'm not saying that they're above anybody in terms of like the actual quality of their team, but just for like harsh objectivity, for right now, we just sort of have to put them at the very top.
Yeah, and I can't...
Much as it chafes.
Yeah, it sucks, but I can't really disagree, and I hope they give me a reason to disagree by the end of the year this year. So.
You're hoping by the end of week 1, you'll have... If they lose one time, he's like, get them out!
Yep.
Go away.
Super Bowl contender.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
Chance. They lose to whoever the
All right, up next is the Cowboys. I think this is a playoff team. You could convince me that with like the right mix of things go their way.
Wild card.
Hell no.
Wild card.
They're by far better than those wild card teams.
Their quarterback keeps them in a wild card position.
No, he does not.
Yes, he does.
He is. Jared Goff has the Lions in the playoff team group.
He's better than fucking Dak Prescott.
No, he's not.
Yes,
they're
he is.
They would be in the exact same group.
Oh God, no, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Dak Prescott is terrible.
So the two teams that are in that playoff team tier are really good teams that have Tua and Jared Goff at their quarterback. That is the exact
I'd
scenario.
rather have both.
That is the exact scenario
I'd
that
rather
the
have
Cowboys
both
are in.
than
Though.
Dak. I'd rather have both than Dak. That's really what it comes down to. I guess you could make the argument that it's basically the same thing. And I know that their
It is
roster
literally the same thing.
I know that their roster is good. I know their defense is great. I know that there are a lot of great offensive weapons over there. I'm so out on Dak that Dak genuinely brings this great roster down a level for me. That's what I'm telling you.
It doesn't bring it down. It doesn't bring it down far enough to be the Steelers or the Ravens.
No, they lose to the Steelers and the Ravens. The Ravens at their healthiest beat the Cowboys, in my opinion. The Pittsburgh Steelers have what it takes.
I think the Cowboys are uniquely suited to stop Baltimore.
I don't. All right, fine. But I think Steelers have a better chance of beating the Cowboys than the Cowboys have of beating them.
We'll see, but I don't. They're in that playoff team tier, dude. There's too many things.
Make that call.
If anything, I will. They're going in the playoff team tier group.
Bro,
and
you cannot convince me that if something no way things go right for Dak Prescott to hoist a Lombardi.
Say they play like a weekend of the bracket. San
won't.
Fran and Philly just knock each other around enough and knock each other out of the playoffs at some point.
I think Philadelphia smokes them in the playoffs when it counts because it's just that different.
I don't think Philly does. I think Philly.
I'm so sick of this Dak Prescott and fucking Cowboys propaganda, dude.
There's only one reason I don't think Philly smokes them in the playoffs. It's tough to smoke your division team.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I think when it really comes down to it, money on the line, forget the regular season. I think I'd take Philly 9 times out of 10, and that enough to me is where I draw the line. Especially because I would so much rather have 20 different quarterbacks in the NFL than Dak Prescott, and I know Dak Prescott's about to have a fall off fucking year.
Well, we're doing another tier list for quarterbacks, and we will let you go on your Dak Prescott rant then.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. I'll let it go.
But in the NFC, in particular, also Dallas is a top 3 team in the conference.
Yeah,
as a team,
because the fucking NFC is so weak.
As a team, their roster as a roster,
the roster's great, but
is up there in the AFC.
Dak Prescott brings it down a peg, is what I'm saying. Put Dak Prescott against Joe Burrow, Mahomes, Allen.
Nobody's making that argument.
I'm saying you put him against in a game.
Yeah, nobody's making that argument.
Zero chance, bro. He lost to Trevor Lawrence at the fucking Jags when they needed to win.
Yeah, a lot of people lost to Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. That's actually a great transition.
I love Trevor
because the Chargers are up next.
Oh,
and
shit!
That was a great. Thank you. You like how I did that?
Now I'm gonna have to talk about the Chargers. Fuck.
This is another team that I'm going to. Here's what I'm willing to do. We're yeah, exactly. You're about to flip sides of your bias here.
Absolutely, I am.
I'm gonna put them.
If there was one team in the middle, maybe I could have done it.
You're like,
maybe I could have transitioned, but no, I'm going from one opposite.
Here's where I'm gonna put. Here's where I would put the Chargers, because my thing of how I tiered this is if there is a chance that if you just catch a lucky break or two, you can win a Super Bowl. I think you're a more legit playoff team. I would put the Chargers in that group. The very fucking bottom of it, but because they're more likely to mess it up for themselves than somebody else is to mess them up. But they are absolutely good enough that something breaks their way or something like that, they could beat any of those teams in that top tier also. They are just more likely to just shit the bed. So
yeah,
so I would have them in that second tier of teams, even though I'm almost certain that they will not end up being as good as people think they will.
They belong in the playoff team category in my opinion above the fucking Cowboys. It really comes down to the quarterback for me. I'm an offensive minded guy.
Well, here's my one thing. Why would they belong over the Cowboys if you're talking about where these teams end up each year?
For me, the Cowboys belong
in the last 3 years. Let's take the last 3 years for instance.
Okay.
Dallas division round. Chargers miss, wild card out, miss. Or miss wild card.
Because it's not their fucking quarterback's fault. We have a relatively on paper same level roster. I think the Cowboys roster on paper is better than the Chargers, and I will 100% say that. But
Herbert's great.
The fact that we have a Chargers roster that is just a step below the Cowboys, and their quarterback is 10 times better than the fucking Cowboys quarterback, and all we have is a dumbass fucking defensive coordinator who doesn't know offense and doesn't fucking know.
Well, that's what the Cowboys and Chargers have in common.
How to do their job. Well, they have
liabilities at head coach.
100%. And that's what I'm saying is that here's the thing. for the Cowboys, you have a liability at head coach, and you have a liability at quarterback. Two things you can't have a liability on if you want to be a consistent playoff team, which is why they keep going to the divisional round, because their roster is good enough.
I know.
But they can't get the fuck out of it. So what I will say right here, right now, is that Justin Herbert is a Super Bowl level quarterback.
I agree.
The problem is
He's great.
he's on the fucking cursed Chargers.
Justin, let me give you some advice. It's time to move up the coast a little bit and just go win.
You want to go to San Fran? I would not be opposed.
He'd win
to
the
that.
fucking Super Bowl.
Oh,
man.
100% he would.
Then they'd win the Super Bowl.
I would not be opposed. There's no chance that happens, but holy shit, that'd be badass.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be badass, except for
Get
whoever
Herbert
the
out of
poor
there.
bastards are that play the 49ers. But the Eagles would hate it, which would make me even happier.
I'd be okay with that. Here's the thing, Justin.
Not to mention, gets him the fuck out of your conference.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And Justin Herbert in the NFC would tear fucking heads off.
Number one in the NFC right away.
100%.
Like, not even close.
100%. And now I'm about to go home and play Madden and play as the Niners.
Let's go trade Herbo.
Just see what that's like.
Little daydream. I do it all the time.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get that. I don't even play as the Bengals half the time because I'm like, this team's perfect. I don't really need to do anything. It would just be boring. I have one Bengals franchise that I just barely made any moves on. I think I brought Hayden Hurst back, to be honest with you. But
I play with a lot of other franchises and then just basically make them the 49ers.
I'd like to do a lot of rebuilds. Right?
I like to do that too, but I always do the same thing. I'm like, all right, who do I want on this team? I want Nick Bosa. I want Fred Warner.
Fair. I try to avoid I try to avoid bringing in my guys.
Oh, I
because
can't.
I'm like I try to make it like realistic.
Yeah, hell no, I don't care. But this is not a Madden thing, and the Chargers are bound
No.
to choke.
And that's totally fine, but I do think that they're a better team because of their quarterback over the Cowboys.
Well, here's what I'll say about this second tier, along with the first tier. All four teams in that second tier could beat each other at any given goddamn time because they all have one thing in common. Really great team, but they all have a really freaking glaring Achilles heel that will likely keep them from a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
With the Chargers, it's their absolute inability to close anything.
Yeah.
With the
Coach
Lions,
is an
it's
idiot.
they're just probably a year young. Cowboys, choke artists also. Dolphins, stay healthy.
Yeah. No, I think that's truly what. When you look at all the Super
Here's
Bowl
what we
contenders,
might
really
disagree
no-
on also, though, coming up.
news.
The Jets.
Where do you have them then?
I think their roster on the whole has been wildly overhyped.
Okay.
But I do think that if it performs, I would have them the very tippy top of that wild card group.
I would put them in playoff position.
Yeah.
Strictly because, again, quarterback. Their roster is good. I'm not going to say overrated. Absolutely. I'm not going to say that this is a team that is going to go win the Super Bowl this year just because they brought in a veteran quarterback who happens to be a Hall of Famer. Every team who has done that thinks they're going to win it that year. Some have gotten away with it. Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, they pulled that off. The Rams and
got
Matt
lucky
Stafford, they somehow pulled that off too.
Got lucky
But-
as a son of a bitch
yeah.
on that one.
Yeah, but the Broncos brought in Peyton Manning, and yeah, they did end up at a Super Bowl, but they lost it, and then they did end up winning a Super Bowl, but it was at the end of the.
I mean, the Peyton Manning
era.
Broncos thing is about the best version of this anybody can hope for, where
Yeah.
they take a franchise that is habitually middling at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and they are immediately a Super Bowl contender for 5 years, whether or not they win them all the time.
Right.
You got to 2. You were in the AFC Championship a bunch of times.
4 games, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like the Peyton Manning Denver run is about the best you could hope for, and then the Brady Tampa run.
Yeah.
But it's just close, just shorter.
Yeah, it was just shorter. So personally, I'm putting them playoff team strictly because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is washed. I do think he's a little bit older, and we're not going to see anything super crazy from the guy. But he's still a smart football player. He's not going to make the mistakes that some of these other quarterbacks who have played for the Jets have made. The roster is relatively good enough. The defense is solid. The offensive line is way more improved than
That thing's going to be shredded by week 3.
Oh, it's going to be shredded, but as of right now, it's good. And on paper, it's good.
Is Becton still penciled in as the starter? Because he's out
Yeah, we'll
already,
see.
we know.
Yeah, Elijah Vera Tucker's probably wrong.
We'll see.
But
All right, I will put them at the bottom of that playoff team tier.
That's fair.
But I think that people are wildly overestimating how good the Jets roster actually is.
I would agree it's overrated, but I do think that if a couple of things go right, I think the biggest
Honestly,
issue.
we've done pretty well here with having even tiers. We have like
Nice.
5 or 4 in all of them.
Nice, good for us.
Yeah, good for us.
Good for us.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And the last 4, we'll see where these all end up.
Yeah.
So I think this first one's pretty easy. I think Carolina goes pretty, like, top or near top of that young, intriguing group.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of thing that I was talking about Houston, but I do think that they're a leg up on Houston because the team's a little bit better. They did some great moves in the offseason to make sure that there is a football team there for Bryce Young when they brought him in. They might have overpaid a little bit for that draft pick, but fuck it.
But if it hits, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, it was like if you fucking get your quarterback, then you never overpay.
I have no problems when teams decide to be aggressive when they're in striking range of that, because if it works, you change your franchise, and if it doesn't, it's like, whatever. We weren't great anyways.
Yeah. So you either get another opportunity to do it, or you fix the problem, which is what the goal is. So
yeah,
I think they're an intriguing football team. I'm excited to see where the Panthers are able to go with Bryce Young.
Definitely.
Is Bryce Young going to be the guy? I have a firm opinion of he's probably going to be the guy. I don't know exactly how high his ceiling is.
I see him take a hit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like NFL hits
That's
consistently.
Fair.
That's the
fair.
only thing that I'd be like,
That's fair.
It's the only question anybody had. Everybody said the whole time, if he was like 6'3",
no one would be.
He would be like far and away number one, no doubts at all.
Yeah.
So it really is just take the hits.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I can't argue. They are young. They are intriguing. This is the spot for them.
Yep. Okay. This next team is weird.
Okay.
Because I don't know that they fit nicely anywhere on here, and that's the Titans. They are not young. They are not on the bubble of anything, probably. But they're definitely not going to be in that number one thing. I would put them, like, bottom of that bubble tier, somewhere around the Giants and the Patriots. That would be where I would probably put them.
My gut instinct, without thinking too hard about it, is it's got to be on the bubble.
Yeah.
I think they're on the bubble, but also in the position of holy shit, rebuild's coming.
Yep.
Which
just
is
a weird thing.
It's a weird thing. They were able to get a quarterback, so if they end up having a quarterback in Will Levis, then maybe they don't. Maybe they can.
Maybe this works out better.
Yeah, maybe it works out a little bit better. But yeah, I do think that they're on the bubble level roster with.
Where do you have them in that group?
Near the.
I think they would be below the Browns and Vikings because their team just isn't there.
Yeah.
But where I would have them above the Giants, but is it? I think that.
Oh God.
Is it them or the Patriots? Because I think they're similar.
I think they're below the Patriots, strictly because at least you have a young quarterback for the Patriots.
Okay. So right now I would have that tier: Browns, Vikings, Patriots, Titans, Giants.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's not. It's in the middle. I think they kind of realize.
Also, this is so satisfying. All the tiers have 5 teams right now, and boy, is it making me happy to look at.
Beautiful. I wish
it's going to be messed up because there's only 2 teams left.
Right.
But
wow, we've been very, very even, and we gotta respect.
This is what we want. This is what you want. I hate it when one tier just goes like da-da-da-da, and the other one's just like 2.
Yeah, it's like 2 Super Bowl contenders, 15 playoffs.
Yeah, we got right now. It's about we got 5 around everywhere, and I think that's about accurate to how this league works.
Yeah,
is a lot of these teams are in similar areas.
Yeah, you're
just like. Who catches who splits the right hair today? Who zigs when they're supposed to zag and loses today? That makes the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta go with on the bubble. I like their spot there. I do think that this could change eventually. We'll see what they have in Will Levis.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because that really is what this depends on. Is this a complete number 1 pick? Contention. We have to have that answered by the end of the year, and they're gonna suck next year, and they know it. Are they gonna sell?
I just don't think. I think that they're gonna be in a Steelers type thing where it's they will never be bad enough.
Yeah. No, I agree with that as well too. I think they're a well coached football team as well, which also makes it a little bit difficult.
Love you, Vrabel.
I'm a big Vrabel guy. So
all right, let's get these last 2 done.
Word.
I think you and I are going to disagree on this. It's the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
I would have them young and intriguing. I think you would probably have the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But I think that the very nature of what the Colts are right now is the exact definition of young and intriguing. Where young receivers, O-lines coming back together, Jonathan Taylor's whole thing, who freaking knows, who cares. Anthony Richardson is potentially the most intriguing of the prospects Because if that son of a bitch somehow does work out, that will work.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that the Colts are also, listen, they're starting from a higher floor than the Texans are. They're starting from like they got an offensive coach in there who's worked with running quarterbacks. Like, there's a lot of reasons here of like, there's a world where this works for the Colts faster than people think.
And that's fair. The reason
I mean, if the Texans are there, dude, the Colts are in that group.
And see, let me make my argument. The reason why I don't believe in the Colts is strictly because it's never worked.
It's worked plenty of times for the Colts.
Well, yeah, when they had Andrew Luck, like when they had Peyton
but that's why they're intriguing right now.
But every single time that they haven't had him and it didn't work, they brought in Phillip Rivers.
Well, what's different about this time than everything between Andrew Luck and now?
Their fucking running back wants out. The guy.
They didn't bring in a 38-year-old journeyman.
And this is the right call. Is you do have to bring. All right, it wasn't working with the older guys.
Yeah.
This is not a roster that was built specifically to let's go win, let's get a quarterback, and we can win now. Where you're missing pieces on the defense that really interest me. This draft didn't interest me at all. I mean, obviously you went and got your quarterback, so credit where credit's due. You went out and got the guy who has the most potential because that was the quarterback you could take. You have an owner who's literally delusional, which, again, if we're going to talk, kind of what culture is like, I can't imagine wanting to work for Jim Irsay right now, especially when the guy is off his fucking rocker. Tweeting about Will Levis.
I'll put it like this: on the Jonathan Taylor thing, I think he's in bounds.
No. I'm with you on that one, but the guy's just a fucking weirdo with how
he's known for that. He's your crazy uncle.
And I get that, but that's the thing is, does a crazy uncle ever win $1 million? No.
Yes, when he had Peyton Manning.
that was when he was less crazy. Like, he was a little bit more put together. So the way I look at it is, I mean, we had this conversation last year. They didn't bring in a lot of great pieces to change the narrative of who the Colts are. And that's why I'm not really in on the intriguing part of this team. Are they young and they brought in the quarterback and they made the right move, in my opinion?
They're young.
Going and getting that
They're young with upside.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Young and upside is
and they
fine,
are going into that group because the Texans are there.
This is still the same fucking team that didn't have a wide receiver last year, and it's the same wide receiver group. Who'd they fucking bring in? No one.
If you're interested in the Packers wide receiver group, the Colts are in a similar thing where it's a bunch of young guys that probably aren't ones, but are twos and threes.
No, and absolutely, but that's the thing is, for me, this is a team that is 1 year away from being young and intriguing, which you said about Houston Texans. So personally, I think
the Colts are better than the Texans.
I think they're below, but I understand putting them in the young and intriguing tier. I'm not upset about it. I'm not going to cry myself to sleep about it. Just a little bit.
I put the Texans in that tier at your behest. I'm putting the Colts in there at mine because they are in the exact same situation.
That's fine. I personally, I think it goes better for the Texans than it does the Colts. I'm in the opposite boat of you. I don't have a problem with them being in the young and intriguing situation because
I think it goes fine for the Texans also. I like what both these teams did this offseason on principle. I think the Colts are a reloading offseason instead of a rebuilding offseason in a way.
They need to be. That's the problem is they're in a reloading. This team is not built for reloading. This team is built for a goddamn fucking rebuild. And I'm sick of watching the fucking Colts parade the same fucking people out in the fucking field and pretending like one thing has changed so everything's changed.
They really just need.
I'm so sick of this fucking team. And if they're going to lose Jonathan Taylor, then they are immediately in number one.
They're not going to lose Jonathan Taylor.
No, they won't because no one's trading for running backs right now, which is hilarious to me that he even brought it up. Jonathan Taylor.
Not to mention, if you were going to bring it up, you should have brought it up 3 months ago.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. Read the fucking room.
It was a stupid thing to do, and it's not going to work out for him.
No, and then he gets fucking hurt in a non-football injury situation.
Well, that's his problem anyways.
What a joke.
But. All right, last one, Jags. I would put them in the playoff team tier.
Okay.
It could go their way, but I don't think that they're better than most of the teams in that tier. Like, if you were to tell me, like, they're the opposite than a lot of these teams. They're closer to... They're like a lesser version of Dallas, where it's essentially, like... Now, I mean, they got the quarterback thing settled. They have that settled.
Yeah.
They have a lot of pieces on their offense. I don't know how many of them are, like, really great.
Mm.
Like, I think that they're just a lesser version of some of these teams. Like, even though they beat the Chargers last year, I think they're, like, a worse version of the Chargers.
Right.
but they are going to look way better because they get the luxury of their schedule.
Yeah.
So, but I think as a team, I would put them somewhere around the Chargers. I don't know how I feel about them in relation to the Jets. I really haven't linked those two teams ever in my mind. Like, Jaguars v. Jets, where do I land? Don't know.
That is a tough one, actually, in my opinion.
I know how I feel about them in relation to a team like the Chargers or the Dolphins or something like that. I don't know. I'm going to put them they're somewhere around the Jets. Them and the Jets are right next to each other in this list. I don't know which order, but somewhere.
Yeah, I think they do belong in the playoff team category. I think they're better this year than they were last year. I don't know if that...
I kind of want to put them above the Jets because the Jets have so many things that are they could have the Broncos thing happen where there's so many new things coming together that just none of it mixes. So I'm willing to put them above the Jets, below the Chargers, even though they beat them.
Yeah, I think that's fair, to be completely honest. I think the Jaguars are a quality playoff football team. They got better, not by much, but I do think they improved. Having Calvin Ridley, granted it's been 2 years since he played, but he's
looking good. I've heard he got hurt. But I don't know. But I haven't heard it was significant, so I'm not that worried.
Yeah.
But I'm getting really pissed off about how many good players are going down. That does not bode well for my team that just has bad luck strike every damn year.
That's fair. Yeah. It is definitely a weird.
You had a scare.
Don't fuck off. I called the Bengals hotline and I said, "Take my fucking
that tweet that they put out was specifically because you kept calling."
I kept calling. They would not. They kept.
That's not how it works. Stop calling to offer your calf muscles.
They're literally like, "Taylor, dude, it's not gonna work."
We
like
appreciate you, Houday, but that's not how this works.
Houday.
We get Houday. We know.
They pick up Houday. It's Taylor. We know.
That should be how they Houday. It's Taylor.
It's Taylor. Yeah. It's like take.
Instead of saying who's this, Houday.
I literally told him, take my fucking legs, man, at this point.
I know.
Shout out Joe Burrow. Glad you're okay.
But overall, there we go. I mean, we got all 32 sorted, and every row has 5 or 6. So, Super Bowl contenders, Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, 49ers, Eagles. Playoff teams, Dolphins, Cowboys, Lions, Chargers, Jags, Jets. Wild cards, Steelers, Ravens, Broncos, Seahawks, Saints. On the bubble, Browns, Vikings, Patriots, Titans, Giants. Young and intriguing, Carolina, Green Bay, Atlanta, Chicago, Indianapolis, Houston. Number 1 picks, Commies, Raiders, Rams, Bucks, Cards.
Yeah, that sounds about right, to be completely honest.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a couple of teams that could flex maybe a tier or 2 here and there, but really nothing.
Of course there is, but in general, we came near consensus, which, hey, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't complain.
Sweet. So we got a couple more tiers we'll be doing, but that is how we rank the overall teams heading into the year. Thanks so much for watching, and again, hit that like and subscribe button. Peace.
Peace.